Welcome along to Tweet Street Scotland Occupied, home of the satirical saltire. I'm Simon Bridges, aka Peter. With me today, I've got the guest today is Farah Hamid. Hi Farah, thanks very much for joining us.
Hi.
Now this one that we're putting out today has sprung as a result of incidents that happened when you were a member of the Alba Party and you were a candidate who was volunteering to stand for the Alba Party in the local council elections this year, Farah. This goes back to earlier on in the year. Is that correct? Would I be right in saying that?
Yeah.
Aye. And it's about an incident where you were racially abused.
Yes.
Yeah. And I know that this has obviously got to be tough for you, Farah. But would you care to share some of the information as to what happened at this event, please?
Well, like leading up to the conference, we'd all gone out for a curry night on a Friday.
Yeah, that's right, I remember.
So on a Saturday, we had the conference, and then it was the Glasgow fundraiser.
Aye.
And I'd taken all my kids to that.
To the Glasgow fundraiser?
To the Glasgow fundraiser.
And I never went to it, Farah, but was it a karaoke or something like that? Or...
Yeah, it was a karaoke and a curry night in a golf bowling club in the south side.
Right.
And it was in end of March.
The end of March. And so you say you took your family along.
3 of my kids went. 3 out of 4 of my children went.
And did you have a good time at the fundraiser? Did this incident happen at the beginning of the fundraiser, or was this partway through or at the end? Because we'll come on to talk about the incident.
This happened at the end.
Towards the end, right? Okay.
Towards the end, just before I left. I'm sure the people were still hanging on after that. Right. Because it was near the end when people were going to leave. People had started to leave, but there were still people listening to music and things. But it was just before midnight. Right,
so it was just before midnight. Right, so, well, if you don't mind, if you can let us know candidly what happened and what led to this. So, if you give us paint a wee bit of a picture for us, please, Farah, if you don't mind.
So, went to the fundraiser. I was part of the Glasgow exec. So we have these different groups. Mm-hmm. So we have the Glasgow candidate group and Glasgow exec. So I was part of the organisers. And straight after so the conference was over 2 days. The second day was about training.
Right, okay.
So the first day, this was in the end of March, it was a Saturday. So straight after we went to the bowling club. And there was a female DJ, people had come, they were eating, there was a bar there, drinking. I was introducing my children to fellow independence supporters and album members.
Yep.
Because I wanted my children involved in the independence movement. Because I feel so strongly about it.
Yeah. I know
and I still do.
I know you as a result of the independence movement. And you come across as passionate about Scottish independence anytime you speak to me about it. So I certainly understand that, why you'd want to get your kids involved in that, Farah. It's a good thing I think it's a good thing to try and get your family involved in, because it's a civic, it's a joyous thing. It's for the benefit of, I mean,
the benefit of society.
It's for the benefit of society, but no doubt you'll be like most other people that say, well, I want independence. I'm not going to get to enjoy what an independent Scotland brings, but my kids and my grandkids or their grandkids should.
It's for society as a whole. I mean, I'm second generation. I was born in Glasgow, just like my kids. My parents came here when they were teenagers themselves, 18, 17 and 18. You know, they were teens themselves when they came here straight to Glasgow. So that's first generation. Myself, my brothers and sisters, we were all born here. Second generation.
So were you born in Glasgow, Farah?
Yeah, born in Glasgow. Can't you tell?
Well, that's that. Just I'm Hamilton. I was born in Hamilton, so like it's like that. Like the Scottish vernacular. Like, where are you fae? You know what I mean? Like if you say to somebody in Scotland, where are you fae? Like you're angling at what part of Scotland is it you're fae? Well, I'm Hamilton. You're Glasgow, right? So like one of the things, right?
It's a Scottish thing. We're always slagging each other off because of what city we're from.
Well, I suppose like that is. It's one of the things. I'm for glorious Hamilton. Where are you for? I'm for Glasgow. Away you go. You're Toonie or whatever. You're Ouija, whatever. Okay.
I'm proud to be a Ouija.
Look, and I'm proud to be.
I'm proud to be Scottish.
Hamiltonian. I'm proud to be Scottish also. So we do share a pride in our country.
Yeah. And
it's getting harder and harder each passing day, though, isn't it? Far away, we being held in the what's supposed to be a voluntary union,
a cage.
With no escape, like prisoners, like a colony. You could say like a colony.
It is a cage. It's a colony. I mean, when you look at the social media, MPs are still saying, "I'll go down and ask them again for permission for a referendum," and you're like, "Bugger off," you know.
Right, so we're keen independence supporters.
And we're family. We're into family and community.
Right, so I want to come back to the incident now. Now, Farah, if at any time you want to stop or you're feeling that you need to take a wee break, then please just let me know, because I know that this must be traumatic for you.
It is, but I've been thinking about it for so many months, Peter. The fact that nothing was done about it, and
we will come on to this. But you made a formal complaint to the party.
Yeah,
right. I did. Tell us about the incident first of all, then, if you don't mind.
Well, I was walking about introducing my children to the ALBA members, party members, and after a while, my children had left, and I stayed, and I mingled. I call it schmoozing. I kind of schmoozed along the floor, moving from table to table, just asking people how they were. And I also noticed the person that we're going to go on and talk about, where they were sitting and who they were sitting with as well. But at that time, I didn't think too much of it. Just a group of ladies sitting together, must be their friend, you know. Did go and say hello to everybody. Then there was the food was served, fundraiser, dancing, and later on, and I took part in the dancing as well. I like a good disco, you know.
A wee jig. You like a wee jig?
A wee jig. Although I think there must have just been 3 or 4 of us to start it off.
It only takes 3 or 4 to dance a wee jig, and then you're off. Everybody else gets going after that. Well, certainly my experiences are pretty much like that anyway.
It was Glasgow girls for you, or Scottish lassies, you know.
Right. So, dancing around a bit of handbag or anything, by any chance?
And there's the bowling club, the bit where the dinner was served and the disco was happening. The disco, the music was going, and people were sitting talking, because the music wasn't that loud, you know. And then it was partitioned off, and then where the end of the bowling green, it's quite a massive bowling green, absolutely beautiful. And there's a wee area where there was more tables on the outside at the other end of the partition. So I saw members of the Glasgow Lacoo sitting there, and I went over and sat and said hello. And I think by this time they moved away, and the lady in question sat across from me.
Right, so when you say that they moved away, did that leave you sitting on your own at that point?
I was on my own. There wasn't anybody left, right, back, or front.
Right. Okay.
Or in the near vicinity next to us.
In the near vicinity next to you. And I don't know, like, were you consuming alcohol?
No.
No. So what? Okay. So in sobriety, imagine like you do drive. Were you driving that night as well?
Yeah.
Aye. Okay. Right. So you were left sat there yourself after the Glasgow Lacoo had initially, when you had joined them, after conversation kind of broke up a wee bit, people had moved away and you were left sat at that section yourself. And then you were approached by somebody. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yep. And she sat in front of me, and she introduced herself as. Am I allowed to say her name because she's already?
Well, I would, to keep yourself from any.
Well, she introduced herself.
She introduced herself because I said earlier on you made an official complaint about this, and we'll come to that later. But she introduced herself. So tell us what happened from there, from after the introduction, please.
Well, she said that she named a person, and she said they'd sent her over to help me with my leafleting. Okay,
and would this have been the head of the Glasgow Lacoo that you were a part of?
Yes.
Okay, right, fair dues.
And they'd sent her over to talk to me and help me with my leafleting, and I smiled. I went, okay, thanks. And but before she helps me, she wants to ask me a few questions.
And this is what she said to you, but before I help you. So, but before I help you, I want to ask you a few questions.
Before I want to help you, I want to ask you a few questions.
Right.
And I just kind of laughed and I thought, okay, go ahead, you know?
Okay.
And before I say anything further, I want to point out, now I used to work as a barmaid and a waitress serving alcohol for over a year for Prestige Sodexo when I was studying, and this was a while back. Now I know the difference between somebody who is drunk, slurring their speech, who's had too much alcohol, and this lady was coherent. Right. Okay. So although I don't drink, I know the difference between somebody who's partially drunk. You know, this person might have had a drink in them, maybe one or two, right? But they were coherent. Okay. Right? Because subsequently, I mean, I was told that, oh, she was drunk. You know, there were so many excuses made, but I'll get to that as well. Right. Okay. So what was said after you had said, right, okay, and pretty much saying, let me know what the questions that you've got to ask before you help me, because you've already said, before I help you, I want to ask you some questions. So yeah, right. So that's your right. Okay, laugh. All right. Okay, ask me. Yeah, I just laughed. I thought, on you go. You know, and she said, in the past we could say the words packy and chinky. Right. Okay. Hard words. Hard words. Yep. You could go and say, go to the packy shop, go to the chinkies. You could call people that as well. Right. And she repeated chinky 3 times, right? And then she looked at me and she said, packy, packy, packy. How does that make you feel when I say it? Right. And there was nobody else round about that could hear. No. You the conversation. There was nobody else within eyeshot or within earshot, and you were outside the main function hall. Yes.
Yep. Okay. So how did that make you feel, Farah? Because
I felt sick.
just you reciting that to me makes me feel deeply uneasy sitting here. So how did that make you feel?
Well, we've had a talk on racism before, and I've told you, Peter, that I'm always reluctant to say anything, but in case people think she's got a chip on her shoulder, when I don't. You know, I've worked numerous jobs and I've had racial insults, and normally second generation, even first generation people, what they do is they laugh it off with a joke because they don't want to make a big thing of it.
Well, it must be like, as I say, I feel uncomfortable when you were saying that, and I'm just listening to what you're saying somebody had said to you, but as somebody that's actually on the receiving end of this, and we'll do a wee kind of we'll track back to this moment.
She said chinky 3 times. Now, I've got members of my family who are Korean. You know, we've got like I was talking about interracial marriages and things, and she repeated that, and then she went on to repeat "Paki" 3 times, and she said, "How does that make you feel?"
And what was your response?
I just said basically that, yeah, I said in the old days, basically people did use words like that. We don't use words like that anymore. I mean, I felt sick.
You felt sick.
I felt sick, and what do you do when somebody's sitting in front of you, saying that they've had to relearn things because they can't use it anymore? But just for my benefit, she'll repeat the words
3 times.
You know, 3, not once, not twice, but 3 times. And ask me how it makes me feel.
It's certainly sounds absolutely awful. It does. There's no try to make it go, is there any, could there been any dubiety of the intention or anything? And
well, I've been told that let's hear the other person's side. You know, I mean, we're going to go on to that, but she could have been drunk, but she wasn't. I feel
before we move on, was that the end of that incident? Was that
no? Right. There was more.
Right. Well, let's carry on to the end of the incident, and then we'll talk about other things that come after. So let's complete the incident, and we'll hopefully put that out of the way for the moment and move on to what happened thereafter.
Yeah. So I felt sick. I tried to, in my head, I was thinking, we've been told that as candidates, as ALBA candidates, when members of the public approach us and say anything, we have to be polite.
Right. Okay.
Right? That was going on in my head. But I was feeling sick. If I was younger, Peter, right, and I would have answered somebody that said something like that.
Yeah.
If I wasn't,
did you get media? Had you received media training? Like, for what you've just said there, if you were approached by the public, was that like
Peter, I've worked
media?
as a civil servant. I've had abuse, and I've had things. People asking me where my corner shop was when I was a civil servant, and I've said to them, "At least I've got a corner shop. Sit down," but not to this extent. This woman has said it, and I've had support. I got support when I worked as a civil servant. Right, but this level of abuse and it goes on, and I'm being told that I imagined it. Right.
So when you say, and it goes on, so after she'd said each of those offensive words on more than one occasion, and 3 occasions each, or
I mean, she said
four
chinky,
occasions,
and then she
four
said
occasions
khaki
each.
3 times
Yeah,
each. Yeah.
yeah. So on 4 occasions each, and it made you feel sick. And you said, well, previously, well, those words, we're no longer using those words. Again, you tried to be
Polite about it. We don't use words. Yeah.
We don't use words. We no longer use words like that because they were just as offensive back then as what they are now. However, it took governments who, again, you could argue that foster racism by the way that they treat the electorate and pigeonhole everybody and put everybody into a box and into a section and keep everybody like not as the electorate. It's as if there's like the government kind of set some sort of I don't want to just use segregation, but apartheid and like, there's all sorts of ways to keep people into separate. Like be setting groups and things like that. So like be putting into this group or that group. Which again we can come on and talk about a wee bit later on. But thereafter, after you had said that, well, we don't no longer use that, what happened next?
Well, I'm thinking, do I have to? I'm sitting there thinking, am I really explaining to her that these terms are no longer used? That the proper terminology is this. The government has decreed, and is this woman for real? Is she really saying that she's feeling bad that she can't use words like this anymore?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm still even now thinking about it and the look on her face, I'm feeling sick. I am.
Do you want to take a break at the minute, Farah? Are you okay to continue? No, just carry on at the minute. Right, okay.
Because as it is, I'm still getting attacked because I'm being called a liar.
Yeah, when you go to speak out, I've noticed that when you went to mention it, and again we can come on to this later. You mentioned on a thread on Twitter the other night, and then you put a post on Facebook today, and it would appear that the person, and we're not going to name them, but they appear to have identified themselves on Facebook, with a barrage of verbal abuse. Yeah, and again, Farah, I know that I was tagged in the Facebook post, but I can't for the life of me remember exactly what was said. But this was addressed to the Alba party. It wasn't addressed to an individual. It was addressed. You'd put this post out, and it was put out, and it was the Alba party were tagged in it. There was no individual.
Yeah, they were tagged in it because.
Right. Okay. That just for clarification purposes, and it's on Facebook or on Twitter. Can go and check these threads out at a later time, obviously, and I'll try and share some of the comments that have been made when I do the edit. Right. So, tell me, what was the next thing that happened then? What was the next thing that this person had said to you?
She doesn't like Muslims, and I'm a Muslim, so she doesn't want to help me because I'm a Muslim and she's an atheist.
Okay. Right. And
she doesn't like Muslims.
Right. And was there anything about the Muslim faith and same-sex relationships or anything?
That was the next part. So
that was the next part. Right. Okay. So that I'm not getting on, tell us. So she said that she didn't like Muslims, and then what happened there?
Then she said that she was a lesbian, and I went okay, and she asked me what I was, and I said, well, I'm not gay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gay. She said, well, I wouldn't be helping you because I know you people don't like homosexuals.
Right.
And I'm sitting there thinking, do I really need? I'm sitting here thinking I'm getting abused, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is the second time somebody's been told to help me, and I'm getting abused or scared, you know, by, do I really need this type of help? You know, that's going through my mind as well. And I'm feeling sick. But at the same time, I'm trying to, why am I pacifying this person? I'm telling this person, no, because we have an LGBT community in Pakistan, in Muslim countries, you know, trans rights. In fact, they're walking in the streets, they're holding mainstream jobs, and you're telling me you don't like me because I'm not a homosexual. You know, first she didn't like me, she was because I'm a Muslim and she's an atheist. That was clear. And the second time, the third comment was, you people don't like, you know, homosexuals. You don't like, and it's like, no, that's not the case.
Right. Okay.
I mean, you've got the three main faiths, right? Why attack Islam, right? But going back to that, every community, every race has an LGBT. It's a worldwide agenda nowadays, right? Your sexuality is yours. I'm not going to question it. You know, I've got friends who are of different sexual persuasion. It's none of my business.
It's again.
But this thing, you people.
Again,
well, people like me, people of color, do belong to the LGBT community. I'm sorry, I'm running out of alphabet numbers here. You know, because I don't know how many alphabet numbers are added to it, but they are part of the homosexual community.
Right,
and believe it or not, they're revered in Pakistan in places, you know.
So, what was? Did you?
Which I explained to her.
Right. So you explained that to her, right?
Yeah, in a nice way.
Right. And what was the and what was a response to that then? What was the next thing that was said?
Well, she asked me if I found her attractive. You know, one of the things. No, before that, it was, prior to that, before I get to that, it was my poverty. She didn't think I could be counselor material, or I should run for counselor, because I couldn't speak for poverty. Asians are not on the poverty line.
Right.
And I've had a couple of people that I've met through Alba who have said similar things, that Asians have shops, Asians have businesses, Asians cannot be poor. And she said her words were, you don't know what poverty is.
Right.
You can't speak for me. This is what she said. You cannot speak for me. You cannot speak for her experiences. Well, I speak for my experiences.
Because I've said you were on.
I've been in a refuge. I've lived in a car. I don't have to tell you or her to what extent, but I have, you know, been there, done that, worn the t-shirt.
I remember, Farah, because I was also volunteering to support the Alba Party and try to get some of their candidates some time to get to into the public eye and get some exposure. Because at that point, I believed in the Alba Party and the message that they were trying to push for independence. I mean, the tagline is Alba stands for Scotland. That's the thing that you'll see on a lot of the things that Alba do. So I was volunteering, and there was some panels where candidates who were also volunteering for the Alba Party in the hope to try and get a foothold for the Alba Party, volunteering their time and efforts for the Alba Party. I'll say that again, volunteering. So, in one of the panels, you told me about the fact that you had experienced a tough time with poverty and having to go into, without going into too much detail, because it's on another podcast, into a refuge and having to at one point live in your car. So I'm aware of that. I was aware of that, as I say, like you volunteering to be a candidate on behalf of the Alba Party. I volunteered to help to try and get candidates a wee bit of exposure. All candidates, or as many as we could get out. So, what was the next thing, the next exchange then, or the next part of that exchange?
After she criticised the fact that I wasn't suitable to talk about poverty, but others were, and I shouldn't be running for. She doubted my position as running for a candidate.
Right.
Just like the other person they'd set me up with as well.
Right. So,
but
she didn't. Was there a comment made about your stance on women and girls and single sex safe spaces? Because that was something that the Alba Party were pushing. It was something that they were
I had to tell her,
people aware of when they were running for.
I actually had to talk to her about my experience. She said that I couldn't speak for women as well, and she asked me about that, and I had to actually. I thought I can't believe when I was telling her about my, and I know we've spoken about this, we've touched on it in one of your podcasts, but I found myself, this woman's telling me that I can't speak for women and girls in single sex safe spaces, and I'm thinking, I'm having to justify myself as a woman and tell her that I find myself talking about domestic violence, my personal experience, domestic violence, my experience on how I lived, just so that she could decide whether I was candidate material, or whether I could. Am I not a woman?
Well,
did they go to?
You certainly look like a woman to me.
I mean, I have experience. I mean, I've been belittled by. I won't mention a name about my qualifications and things by another person, but is there something about me that seems to? I'm thinking about it. Is there something about me? If they didn't want me to run for a candidate, why ask?
Exactly.
Why send people my way? Why Abdul Majid, Denise Finlay, other people asking me to run for a candidate, and then send people my way to abuse me?
I can't answer. I don't know. Again, it baffles me as to why they would ask people to volunteer to stand on behalf of the party as a candidate to try and support the party and gaining a foothold, only for the party then to go on and deny anything that whenever you raise something that's an issue. And we'll come on to the complaint, because you raised
this kind of stuff, even if it was just one thing, this kind of stuff crushes a person, crushes their personality, their mental health, their emotional and physical well-being, know. And they've done it to me twice with this person, and prior to that as well. Why ask me to run for a candidate if you're going to have me abused?
Look, again, I can't answer. I don't know. It's one of those perplexing situations to be in. You would think that by being approached to see if you would run for the party, to volunteer to run for the party, and you would be fully supported from that point of them making the approach. However, that doesn't appear to have been the case, does it?
I was approached by Abdul Majid to join the Alba Party. I was still in the SNP at the time. I was doing COCAB's campaign.
Right, okay. And
I said I would after I finished our campaign. Now, then I was asked to run as a candidate. Now, that took convincing. And then I'm getting abused. I'm getting abuse hurled at me. And I'm thinking, what have I done wrong?
I don't let again. It's one of those very strange situations.
And I've seen a message that says, well, what did you do that would make them do that to you?
Right. Well, we'll come on to some of those messages. Let's finish off this section here. Was there anything else that was said at the incident that we're talking about in particular?
Yeah, to cap it all, she thought she was being funny, you know, just to make a light-hearted spin. Do you fancy me? Would you go out with me?
Right. Nothing about careers. Nothing about you. Did you know? Was there no mention of that you were a career that you were looking to get a career out of?
A career out of it. That's it. Yeah, a careerist.
Yeah. Right. That you were a careerist. And then finally, that they saw your social media.
So I was first. I was not fit to run because I couldn't speak for poverty.
Right. Okay.
I didn't know about women's issues. And then she called me a careerist when I did say I had experience of poverty and domestic violence.
Right. Right.
Then I was a careerist.
Right. Okay.
And you've got to understand, I didn't take any money from the Alba party.
Yeah. Yeah. As I say, look,
I couldn't give them anything. I couldn't give them big donations like other people could. I couldn't put money in apart from my membership.
So Farah, the last part that you were saying, it was you were asked if you saw a woman, would you say that you fancied her? Is that what was your response to that?
I think I said that I don't have time for men or women. Too old for this, you know.
Aye, so you try to be. It seems as if you're trying to come across as being diplomatic. Look,
Yeah, so she wasn't offended,
aye.
but she offended me.
Look, and again, it's one of those things where I'm sitting going, right, I'm trying to think, me in that same situation, obviously it might have been different things, but how would I have tried to react? And I don't know that if somebody was being discriminatory towards me, that I'd have been able to.
He said, I've been hit on by women before, right?
Aye.
So when you're like at Delmonica's, I think, or the Polo or something, you know, in my heyday, when I could dance and it's well, either sex, when you say no to them, it's not an insult to them, you know.
No, well, shouldn't it be? Well, again, with the consent belongs with us on like certain things. But if somebody asks you something, the consent belongs with the person that's being asked.
But her thing was, if you see a woman in the street, you know.
Right. Aye. So again, look, you're sitting there. You've been approached. You've been asked questions before somebody's going to help you, and these are the questions that you've been asked. You've responded in a diplomatic way. What I'm hearing from you, and also from what I've read, because we'll come on to this section. We'll just finish up this section. How long did this conversation take? Over what period of time did this conversation take? Was it?
Seemed like forever, but probably about 15, 20 minutes.
Right. So it was a concerted period of time then. It wasn't as if it was a 5-minute conversation. You were sat there for a concerted period of time. And as you said by your own admission, being on the receiving end of the questioning, you felt as if it took forever.
And I was talking to her and explaining to her that not that I'm a good candidate, but that me being a Muslim, me being a person of color, you know, because all the questions were aimed at me, my color, my ethnicity, my religion, and my sexuality.
Right.
And how rich I was because I couldn't speak for, because Asians are rich, because I couldn't speak for poverty.
Right. And how did the conversation end?
And during that time, she didn't fall to one side. She wasn't drunk, you know. She may have been drinking. She didn't flop back and forward. She was sitting upright. She didn't slur her speech. I want to make it clear, just in case somebody comes back to me again and says she was drunk.
Right, okay. Now, the 15 or 20 minutes period, approximately, that the conversation happened over, did anybody else come into the conversation?
No.
Come and sit beside you? Acknowledge that the both of you were sitting there?
No.
No. Right. So, right, so how did the conversation end then?
I left and she got up to leave as well.
Right, so was it like an unnatural end to a conversation? Was it a case of nothing else was said after the last comment about sexuality, if you've seen a woman?
Well, I wasn't going to say to her, let me know when you can go out canvassing with me.
Yeah,
you know?
right, okay.
Hi, nice to meet you. You're a great pal.
Right. Well, of course, but it was a case of, did both of you get up and walk separate ways? Did one of you get up
I got up
and
first.
leave? You got up first and walked away?
Yeah.
And where did you walk to, Farah? Where did you then? Did you go back into where the function was happening?
I think I had to go and get something, and then I left. But
So you went.
I went outside.
Right. So did you go outside first?
No.
And then, right. So you went into the function room, collected your belongings, and then left.
Yeah.
Now, was that as a result of the conversation that you had? Did you speak to anybody? Did you say goodbye to anybody? Was it just a case of in, collecting your belongings, and then out to your car and then home?
Well, the people, like I was talking to a couple of people, I just said bye to them, but I just kind of left in a hurry. But when I went outside, she was smoking with a few of there was a group of people smoking out there, but she was smoking as well. People that she'd been sitting with earlier on, when I had seen her with, she was smoking with them. And she was having a conversation as well. But I left.
And did you say goodbye to anybody that was outside on your way between?
Not her. I just said bye to maybe a couple of the crew members, and then I just left.
Right. And so you just walked over to your car, get in your car, composed yourself for the drive home.
Yeah.
And then drove home. How long did it take you to get home from the place to your home address? Approximately
15 minutes.
15 minutes. So you went straight home. And what happened when you went home?
Changed, got myself together, sat down, thought about what I should do. And then I messaged, we had a separate chat group for the executive members of the Glasgow LACU. So I messaged there.
Okay.
And I asked, although it was in the executive chat, so only the people who were in the Glasgow executive would have known, not the Glasgow candidates. And I said, this woman approached me using your name. Do you know her?
And what response did you get?
Nothing at all.
Nothing at all. So what was your next step then?
Next step, I couldn't sleep all night. Next day we had a training at the Hampton conference.
Yep.
And saw the party leader there. So I made a beeline for him.
And what did you say to him?
I told him what happened. Word for word.
Word for word.
Word for word.
And what was the response that you got there, Farah?
That exactly was sort of these kind of things happen in politics. You know, things are said. You're running for as a councillor. Things like these are said, and you have to develop a thick skin. And you know, this is kind of stuff that you'll be dealing with when you're in politics.
But if we deal with it on the street, if somebody makes comments like that on the street, and there happens to be witnesses of those comments getting made, that is a criminal offence. There's criminal proceedings that can be brought.
I told him this lady said she was an ALBA member.
But in politics, it's to be you've got to develop a thick skin. So well, again, we're seeing the difference between politics and real life. That obviously politicians want you to vote for them, etc., and they want to pass the best message. And so Farah, how did it make you feel when you approached the party leader and told him word for word of the experience that you'd had? How did it make you feel when you got the response that you got?
Well, the reason why I approached him when I saw him was a part of why go through hoops. There's something happening and he should know about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what my reply to him was, I did reply to him and I said that something has to be done. So I think he knew that I wasn't going to leave it.
Right, okay. Something has to be done. Right, so that was your response. Something has to be done.
And
okay.
I think he mentioned Tasmina's name.
Right, okay. So after that then, you would have finished up at the conference that Sunday. I was also at the conference that day as well. I was at the conference both days. After you finished up the conference then, what was your next steps? What happened there? What
Nobody from... Well, the lady who she claimed had sent her, whose name that she used, hadn't approached me. The other lady who also knew her didn't approach me, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So then I started thinking, well, maybe she used them as a ruse to come over to me.
Right.
So I'll ask the other candidates who were there in the Glasgow fundraiser if they know of her.
Yep.
So I put it in the candidate chat.
Right.
That was in late on in the evening on Sunday night.
Okay.
And I said that this lady approached me, I didn't mention the person's name, but I said used the position name, you know,
yep.
Be it the organizer, convener,
yep.
used her name and said that she was sent over by her, and then said all these things. And
so you posted everything of what she had said to you.
But I said, has this lady approached you? Because I think that she may be going around asking other people or saying others. Maybe she said something to somebody else before she came to me.
Right, so you were just trying to establish, had anybody else experienced anything with this person. Did anybody respond to that?
Yes, 2 people responded to that, but I got a lot of support from the candidates saying that it was really bad. But what happened, 2 people responded to it. One said that she was approached and this lady did say something to her which wasn't nice, and the other one was a male who said that this lady was abusive towards his girlfriend and his father.
Right, okay. So there was a couple of people had responded that this person had said something. Of the things that they did say, they didn't deem them to be the most friendly. Is it accurate to hint at that? That
Yeah.
at least not friendly. Okay. Had anybody from the executive responded? Had anybody read? I know if it's in a group chat type thing, if it's all some of these group chats, of which I'm certainly involved in, where you've got Signal, where you've got WhatsApp, where you've got all of these things where you can do it. So it shows that when you send a message, it shows if somebody reads it as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, by 10 to 6 Sunday morning, everybody had read that message, but nobody had replied.
Okay, so you went along to the conference that day. You spoke to Alex Salmond, and then you've come back home.
I spoke to him, yeah, that morning. Yep, on Sunday morning.
And then on Sunday afternoon, early evening, you've came
so
home
Sunday night. Sunday night. So after being on the training day in the conference, I mean, I spoke to Alex Salmond in the morning, and then being in the training, I think we were home by the afternoon, and then at night time, still no response from the Glasgow executive, nothing at all. I thought, well, okay, I'll put it on the candidate chat, because if this lady's, she's using it as a ruse to attack me, she'll have done it to somebody else, or she might plan on doing it to somebody else. And so I put it, and 2 people came forward, a male and a female, saying that they were attacked, or their partner and their father was attacked verbally by this lady.
So by all accounts, although the incident with yourself was isolated to just you and this person that you had mentioned, other people had said that this person had said things that were not nice,
unpleasant to them.
Unpleasant to them. Right, okay. And was that at the same event? Was
same
that
event, yeah.
At the same event, the same evening. Right, okay. Okay. So we've got a wee bit of a picture for anybody who's watching. What was your next steps, Farah?
At this stage, what happened then was a member of the Glasgow executive, whose name this lady, the perpetrator, had mentioned, the Glasgow executive, she came on and started, I can only say, if you can say that word, scream at you, started screaming in words, how dare you use my name, when actually I didn't. And all I said was, this lady used the position, I might as well say it now, the position of, say, treasurer, the position of a treasurer, you know, as a ruse to talk to me.
Right.
So and she said all this. And the other candidate said to this lady, she's not saying it was you, she's saying that this lady approached her using your name. She's not saying you sent her. So on the candidate chat, I did say this lady approached me and as using your position, but I didn't say the name, using a position. You know, so I would have said, this person approached me using the name Tweet Street. Right?
Yeah. So Tweet Street sent me to talk to you.
Yeah. So the people were saying, well, the other candidates saying, well, she didn't say that. Farah's saying that she used it as a ruse, and I've said it. So please stop, you know, this barrage of abuse towards Farah.
Right, okay.
So anyway, during this onslaught, you can read the messages, right, which I've got screenshots of. She phones, and during the messages she's phoning, and she's phoned me, and she starts screaming.
Right.
And I sent a recording of this to the Alba Party Conduct Committee as well.
Alba Party Conduct Committee.
Because my daughter recorded this. It's just part of the message she recorded, because she was screaming at me, how dare you put this, how dare you do this, and how dare, I can't remember, but it's a recording on my daughter's phone. How dare you do this? And I just remember saying to her, don't ever phone me again.
Right.
And I put the phone down, and I remember putting on the candidate chat, don't phone me and abuse me. And I put, you know, and like, so that everybody could see that this person who phoned and abused me, this person who's also running for councillor.
Right, okay. Picked
the phone up and abused me.
Right, okay. So what happened thereafter? What happened thereafter? After the you put that in the chat, was there a further communication in the chat, or was there?
Yeah, not on that. Then the Glasgow executive, there was a meeting held, a meeting going to be held, a Zoom meeting, and I was asked to attend. And
along with everybody within that specific.
This the executive, the Glasgow executive.
And that would have included the person who you're making
no,
you're going to make
not the perpetrator, but
right,
the person who she said sent her along.
Right, okay. So
her and somebody else organised a meeting.
Right.
A kangaroo court.
Right, okay.
To address the allegations that I made against her. I asked her, what's this meeting for? And her message was to address the allegations. I've taken a screenshot, address the allegations you've made against me. And I went, I've not made any allegations against you. All I'm saying is this woman used your position and your name as a ruse to say that
they sent me over.
You sent me over, and then she said those things. But I'm not saying that you said those things. I'm saying those ladies said those things,
That lady said that. And on the premise is that in entering the conversation with you when you were sat alone, it was such and such who is the branch.
Yeah, lady did use her name.
Sent me over to speak to you. But before I help,
I want to ask you some
questions. Right, okay. So has there been a miscommunication?
No, I was very clear.
Right.
I was very clear. And even the Alba candidates who were on the main Alba candidate chat were saying to this lady who was in the Glasgow executive, Farah's not saying this. Farah said that it's a woman. So they made it clear to her as well.
Right.
This is not an attack on you. This is an attack,
And then even after, so even after that, then you were then sent a Zoom invite to discuss
attend a meeting,
the allegations that you had made against this person, even though they weren't against this person.
Yes.
Sounds a wee bit, and this has been after somebody's pointed out, or a few people have pointed out.
Quite a few people pointed out to her.
Right.
That it wasn't against her.
But still, this person decided that the allegations were against her, and she wanted to have a Zoom meeting with you.
Yeah.
Along with some other people.
Yeah, other members, 5 other members of the executive. In total, there would have been 7, including myself.
Right. So, what happened at that point?
Well, I'd already approached the party leader. I think somebody had said to me, talk to Corrie Wilson, and she had messaged me as well. I have to say that those candidate chats have disappeared, and I had taken screenshots of the ones that are pertaining to me, so that I'm not called a fantasist or a liar at a later date.
Yeah, yeah.
And I have my emails as well. And I also have the recording of part of it where she's abusing me on the phone.
Right, okay. So you have a recording of the person that alleges that you made the allegation against this person when it wasn't. It was against the person who perpetrated the allegation. Was against them, that they had used your name and your position to enter into a conversation with you. So the person,
this member of the executive is accusing me of making the allegation against her when it wasn't. All I said was that the perpetrator used her position and her name to say she sent me over to ask you questions.
To ask you some questions.
And I said it could be it's a ruse. And I asked the other candidates, have you been approached and had similar experiences? You know, can anybody tell me?
And to which a couple of people responded.
Did reply,
they had. Right, okay.
And when other people did try and pacify her and say, this is not about you, this is not, you know, this is nothing to do with you.
Yep.
You know, she took it one step further and she arranged a meeting to hold me to account about the allegations apparently that I made against her, when it wasn't allegations, it was statements made about the women.
Right, okay. So there certainly seems to be a misunderstanding on somebody's part that's not yourself or the people within the candidate chat who seem to understand the message that you were conveying. However, this person had understood that it was as if it was an allegation against them themselves. Okay.
The other candidates understood.
Yeah.
Other people understood, but
right. Okay. So what happened thereafter when you spoke? When somebody told you to speak to Corey Wilson?
Spoke to Corey Wilson. I was told to speak to Lee Wilson. Both advised me to then approach the Glasgow executive and say, ask what the meeting was for. Again, it's about the allegations I made again about this member of the executive, and then say, I went back to them and they said, no, say to them that you can't attend a meeting without somebody, either them or Chris McElhaney. She refused.
She refused?
She refused.
So
she said that
what's Corey Wilson's position in the party?
She's one of the higher ups, membership convener and stuff, and one of the NEC and higher up.
Right. So the executive committee, is that higher
That's
up
just
than
Glasgow,
those people, or is that just
no.
Right. Okay. So is this person then acting autonomously of the party by your insistence that you have to? Is that
attend a kangaroo court?
Mm-hmm.
I did say to Corey Wilson, I don't have a problem attending the kangaroo court because I haven't done anything wrong. I'll answer them, and they said, no, you have to follow party procedure. Either tell her that there's no meeting, or you have to attend with somebody, an official from the Alba Party.
From the Alba Party. And at that point, when on informing the person of this, they declined to accept.
They declined, and they said the meeting was going ahead. So at that point, I told them that I wouldn't be attending the meeting then.
Right. Okay. And what was your next steps then, Farah?
Well, I was told to put in a complaint to Chris McElhaney, which I did.
Okay. And I can confirm, I've seen confirmation of the email trail between Farah and the Alba Party representatives.
The conduct committee.
Yep, since the complaint was raised. And so was Corey Wilson on the NEC at the time?
No? I think she's at membership. I know she's got higher at that time, maybe the NEC or not, but she's higher up positions.
Right.
So we were told, I was told, either herself, Lee, or Chris, somebody had to be present with me.
And when you informed them of that you wouldn't be attending, What response did you then get from the party?
Well, first and foremost, the meeting within the Glasgow branch went ahead.
Right, okay.
The Glasgow executive went ahead, and I think it went 10, 15 minutes in, and then it was shut down. So this kangaroo court went ahead, but it was shut down afterwards.
Right, okay, by
orders from up above to shut it down, to see if it was going ahead or not. But
right, okay.
I was informed afterwards by him it went ahead, but then it was shut down.
And it was shut down. And was there any feedback to you from other than that it went ahead and it was shut down? Was there any feedback?
I didn't ask.
That? No.
I was kind of shocked that it actually went ahead
after the message that had been passed. Right, okay, fair dues. What was the response that you got to the because you've followed
the response I got from the conduct
process.
committee? I got a call from a man called Hamish Vernal, who told me that for now, let's deal with the election. The election's coming up, and we'll deal with this matter for the sake of the Alba Party and Scottish independence. We'll deal with this matter after the election. So,
shh, don't tell anybody, please.
Well, at that time, I thought, okay, independence, because, you know, Scottish independence is a big thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know how much?
Yeah.
You know how much it means to me, Peter?
Aye, it's look, again, people are trying their best to try and keep the conversation going, build the momentum that was lost.
And even now, I'll be called a traitor.
Yeah.
I'll be called a traitor to the cause. I've already been called a traitor. I've been told I've destroyed the independence movement just by using a Scottish phrase.
Yeah. Again, we've already touched on that Scottish phrase, but we'll come on to that later on. We'll talk about the response that you received, obviously, from Hamish about keeping it until afterwards, after the council elections, because ultimately, if this had come out before the council elections, it would have scuppered any chance that the Alba Party may have had. Subsequently, the council elections didn't return any Alba councillors. In actual fact, the councillors who had moved from the SNP over to the Alba Party that were still the incumbents, none of them managed to regain their seat. And there was no breakthrough moment for the Alba Party on that occasion, which was unfortunate because everybody, because I was the help out with another candidate in my area, and try to help them out as well. So I know the disappointment that a lot of people had suffered as a result of the effort that was put in by all of the volunteers. So it was a disappointing time. What was the next step after the response for Hamish?
I was asked. I was told later on. I was trying to figure out. I think it was after the elections. I was contacted by somebody to give a statement,
mm-hmm.
and she asked, I would say, leading questions about the person's activity on in the branch.
Right.
So, and how that person was as well in the branch. And I'm going to put this. I'm going to lay this out as well. So when she asked me these questions,
yeah,
she also asked probing questions about the person who insisted I attend the kangaroo court. Helen McLean asked me questions about this person's effort and demeanour within the Glasgow Lacu. So again, I gave her what I thought I saw, and what happened with some other members as well.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they took that on board, that's another story.
Mm-hmm. But you made them aware of certainly the knowledge that you had.
Yes.
Right.
And Heather McLean is part of the Equalities team, which I was a part of as well. Right. Alba Equalities.
Yeah, you were a part of the Alba Equalities team. Was that before the election or after the election that you became a part of the?
Before. So
you became a part of the Alba Equalities team before the council elections, and this was all happening while you were a member of the Alba Equalities team and standing as a candidate for the local council elections.
Yes.
Right. When did you become a part of the Alba Equalities team, Farah? Roughly?
Well, I think they asked me around about Christmas time, and then January officially, something like that. January, February.
So about 4 months before the elections.
Well before the elections, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So about 4 months. So you were in the Alba Equalities team. Would you say that you were settled in the Alba Equalities team? Or were you still finding your feet? Or was everybody finding their feet? Because it's relatively new as far as a party's going, and
it's not the first time I've been in an equalities group.
Right.
Right. I served on the Law Society of Scotland in the Equality and Diversity Committee.
Right.
And I would say they were more diverse. Equality and diversity is more there than there was in communication than there has been. And I'm whether they're not going to like me saying this.
Mm-hmm.
We're not all Jock Tamsin's bairns, you know.
Right. Well, not all.
We're a diverse community, Peter.
Right. Sorry, I thought somebody had said that to you, that we're not.
No, that's the Alba Equalities motto, you know.
We're all Jock Tamsin's bairns.
But a few people have come back to me and said, well, they don't agree with that, but hey, they want to run with that, that's fine, you know.
Again, it's.
But did I feel comfortable? No, gradually I didn't feel comfortable being in the Alba Equality, so I left that before I left the Alba Party.
Right. Okay.
I didn't see a place for me in Alba Equalities. As time went on, I'm sure they do good work, you know, but it wasn't for me after what happened in the party. And I think there's a lot of things that need to be addressed that haven't been addressed.
Absolutely.
Not just for me personally, but just in general. I'm not the only person. It's been brushed aside. No,
you are not the only person. And we'll come on to that later on. What was the next steps? What was the next? Where did we go from there?
Well, after my so-called statement to Heather McLean, I got a verdict that my claims were unsubstantiated. No evidence, nothing. And the lady had witnesses.
Right. And who were those witnesses?
Don't know. I asked for the witnesses.
Right. But as part of the code of conduct, is it no? Not the code of conduct. As part of the process of the complaints process. Sorry. If you make a complaint about somebody, I would presume it's just the standard complaints procedure that's followed by many companies, that, well, if somebody makes a complaint, there's got to be an investigation of that complaint, any evidence gathered from either side, but each party has to have all of the information that
On
each
hand,
other
yes.
said. So you never received, you were just told that there was witnesses?
I was told the perpetrator, after my case was dismissed by the conduct committee as being unsubstantiated, I was told that I was now being investigated by the conduct committee, and the person that I had accused of being racist and Islamophobic and much more had raised a complaint against me. And also her, who I imagined at that time being her friend, who is her friend, also the member of the Glasgow executive at that time, also put in a complaint against me as well, that I had tarnished her name.
Right, right, okay.
And and what Hamish Vernal said, his email was, what would I like to say to that, words to that effect. So my reply to him was, well, and his was, they have witnesses. And I went, well, okay, well, why don't you use my original statement, the one I first gave to you, use that towards their accusations, me being a fantasist. They were demanding an apology from me, and they used my statement, investigate it, and in the process I said, see these statements, these witnesses that they have, can I have the witness statements, please? You can redact their names if you want, but I'd like the statements.
Yep.
Because I don't recall any witnesses. You know, I have a good memory. I don't recall any witnesses. So he replied back, the conduct committee says the case is closed.
So have they upheld, they've upheld the counter complaint, they've refused your complaint, they've upheld the counter complaint without supplying you with what the counter complaint is?
I think he replied back saying, do you want to go into mediation with the Glasgow exec member? And I went, well, if she chooses to go through some sort of racial awareness training and is accountable for her actions, then we can go through some sort of mediation. But other than that, because we'll be working together within the Glasgow Laku, but until then, I'm not going to apologise. I'm not going to apologise to a person who's trying to reverse it on me.
Yeah. Right.
And as for the person who was racist and abusing me, I really do not want to talk to her.
Right. Okay. What was the outcome then?
Well, for me, when I asked for the statements, he said the matter is closed. That's it. The matter is closed. And then subsequently, the perpetrator started appearing on Glasgow Laku meetings. So I had to face this person who was racially abusive towards me, and used Islamophobic terms, and said other things. I had to look across on a Zoom meeting, but I had to.
You had to sit in that same Zoom meeting
with a person. Can you imagine how that makes you feel?
No, I can't.
It's like getting your head kicked in by a person and having to sit there face them again.
What immediately springs to mind for me is the complaint that was raised against it. This is the SNP that we're talking about here with Patrick Grady against the sexual assault allegation, and Ian Blackford tried to force the victim and into a room, or tried to trick the victim into a room with the perpetrator. No, it's not too dissimilar. Obviously, you're not in the same room, you're in a Zoom meeting. But if you're trying to satisfy the commitment that you've got to the party, then you'd want to be attending all of these things as a matter of course. It must have been uncomfortable having to be in that Zoom with somebody who had made these comments to you, and then the counter claim
I'm a fantasist,
Mhm.
and that was from the perpetrator. I'm a fantasist. I think she's called me a effing liar and a fantasist today again. And the member of the ALBA member, the executive, said that I had dragged her name through mud,
Right.
and called her a racist when I didn't.
Right. So all of this would have gone through the party, the proper processes, which you would have thought would the National Executive Committee, the Conduct Committee would all know about this, yeah?
Well, I would assume so. I mean, I was part of the ALBA Qualities, and there's members in there that are part of the NEC, and they knew about this.
Right. Right. I see. So you would have thought that it would have been communicated at least amongst the more executive members of the party and groups of the party, and not necessarily just to the membership. But they would have got to know about this. But certainly the hierarchy, the top end of the hierarchy.
Oh, the hierarchy definitely knew. The man at the top knew. The people down below knew as well.
Right. But the members, not all of the members would necessarily have been aware of this. This was candidate executive committee type, and that level of. But you'd obviously said to some other members.
I did say to Mr. Bernal, Hamish Bernal, that as well as providing me with the statements, why not? I am willing to sit in front of ALBA members, all 7,000 members of theirs, and they can ask me questions, ask their two witnesses questions, and anybody else who say they were there at the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the reply back, like I said, was the case is closed.
Case is closed. Right. So what was your next steps then after you got the reply back saying that the case is closed? What happened next? What was the next part?
Well, they offered me they suggested I have mediation, and I said and offered to apologise to the Glasgow executive member who wanted a formal apology, you know, and I went, no, that's not happening because I haven't said anything to her.
Yep.
You know. And as for, I'll be quite happy if certain members went through racial awareness training. I don't like the word unconscious bias,
but
racial awareness training, and aware of their actions and what they did and how we came to this point. And maybe then I could sit down with certain people and talk to them. But like I said, I found myself on Zoom meetings, Glasgow Laku Zoom meetings with the perpetrator. So things got more and more uncomfortable.
So what did you do then? What happened next?
I'd already become part of a grassroots organisation. I was asked to join, so I kept myself busy with that. And I'd left ALBA Equalities first. I didn't see a role in ALBA Equalities. I don't see any equalities here. No racial, no religious. You know, it's, I could talk about this endlessly, but what can I say? I'll be told I have a chip on my shoulder. Yeah. I have a hidden agenda. I'm a traitor to the independence cause.
Yeah.
You know?
Look, again,
I've ruined a poor man's chances of a comeback. You know, I was told after the Perth rally that I was told that I had to make a public apology. You know, or Denise Findlay picked the phone up and told me I had destroyed the cause of independence. Right. Okay.
So you destroy the cause of independence by trying to talk to a BBC reporter to ask him about
where are you from?
Aye.
Why haven't you heard about Claim of Right?
Why haven't you heard about Claim of Right? Aye.
You stuck in the woods, mate, somewhere, you know? Where have you been?
Yep. So
do you not ask people where they're from, Peter? Where are you
from? It's a random opener. It's like it's just
where are you from?
Aye, where are you from? Where are you mate? Where are you pal? Where are you from? Oh, I'm from here, there, wherever. Aye, it's a Scottish vernacular.
So I was told Eva Comrie phoned up and told a certain person that, how would Farah like it if somebody said that to her?
Right.
Well, actually, people actually say it. What they usually say is, where are you actually from, Eva? That's what they actually say. Where are you actually from? Tell us where you're really from.
Right. And it's like,
not where you're from or where you from. Where are you actually from? Tell us where, you know, and they'll maybe sometimes they might point backwards. Where are you actually from?
Right.
Really from, you know?
And
but not where you from.
There's been an incident in the press recently of a very prominent example of what you're saying that happened, something to do with the monarchy. And one of the aides to the now deceased last monarch had made references to what you were alluding to, as people have said to you before. Like, no, where are you actually from, or whatever.
Where are you really from?
Aye.
That's the phrase that Eva was trying to get at. Where are you really from? That's racist, not where are you from or where are you from.
Aye.
You know, I'm not a racist.
Aye.
So trying to turn it back on me, that's really wrong.
But again, with all of the things considered, it seems a wee bit unfair to not even provide you with all of the allegations or the counter allegations that were made against you. You've followed the process of, and the procedure of, trying to do the right thing. The Perth situation where you've said something, you've been told that because you've done that, you're destroying the movement. But earlier, if you do this, you'll destroy the movement. So, for the Alba,
now that's two instances.
Members or a member of the Alba party, they said that, well, we need to keep quiet about this, to wait till after the council elections, because we don't want to destroy Alba's chances, or the independence movement. So you're getting used. This seems to be like a common stick to beat somebody with. Oh, well, you'll destroy this, or you are destroying this, your action this, and again.
Well, you can get sexually abused, raped, poverty, racism, all these things can carry on, but you can't talk about it because they'll destroy the independence movement unless you're a certain political figure.
Yeah. It certainly sounds awful, and when we're all trying to.
So this is where I said whistleblower wrong type.
Because I've spoken about things before on previous podcasts, Farah, where I've said about, well, obviously we mentioned earlier on that we volunteered our time to try and support. So I was doing some candidate panels, etc. And then at the end of once all the candidates had gone off, we stayed on and we chatted. Some people stayed on and chatted. And I was told that there were certain voices that we should try not to amplify. Now, some of these voices were standing as candidates for the Alba Party. Right? So I was told this. And it put me in a position of going, but wait a minute. My thoughts on this was that we'll try to amplify everybody's voice. Everybody's got a voice, and it should be they've got the right to have it heard. So we've got to amplify everybody's, but there's certain ones that you don't want to amplify. Now, as we've already mentioned, there was no success for the Alba Party. What would have happened if some of the voices that we were told to not amplify, had they been amplified, they might have been the ones that made the breakthrough and got the success for that. We'll never know that. This is all what happened. What if? But my involvement with the Alba Party has since ended, Farah. I was a member. I'd never been a member of a political party before. I had watched from the outside of the SNP and seen how terrible it had got, and thought, wow, look at this. Set up a podcast, the Alba Party set up their own coming into being, and I thought, oh well, let's try and see, because we're desperate for independence, and the SNP hadn't been doing anything. And we know that how the RUK government is with Scotland and our rights to leave this voluntary union without their permission, or whatever the case may be, as we've latterly found out. But I've since left the Alba Party myself, and my wife had became members, the first time we've ever became members of a political party in my life. And I left because not only with that example of, well, certain voices haven't to be amplified, but in a telephone conversation with a member of the Alba, it's a member of the Alba Party who doesn't, who's a secretary of the Alba Party. I won't give their position at this moment. Had made a telephone call to me. Hold on a wee second, and I'll put us both on screen. Had made a telephone call to me, and you'll know yourself, Farah, that if somebody phones me, I put it on a speakerphone, and you frequently chat to myself and my wife. It's no different. I was doing something on the laptop when the phone call came through, so I just hit the speaker so that I could continue doing what I was doing while listening to what was getting said. So the noise is getting cascaded into the same room that I'm sat in with my wife. And we were talking about a launch event for the grassroots group movement that you were talking about, and how it hadn't gone to plan, and people would come in, and 10 minutes after the event was due to start being live streamed, and asked me, like, oh, can I use your stream? Can I piggyback on your stream to put it on Indie Live? His name was Ian Leckenby. Put it on Indie Live. And I says, no, you're not coming in at 10 past when I'm waiting to go for you, then having to wait for you to set up. So that was one thing. We had this conversation, and the Alba member had said to us, yeah, it's like try to find infiltrators into the independence movement. And I'm not going to say the actual phrase. I'm going to censor myself in this. But what they did say was trying to find people who are infiltrating the independence movement is like trying to find the N word in a woodrow. I think everybody should know to what I'm referring. Now, my wife and I both looked at each other in amazement, and the telephone call was pretty much, that was the end of the telephone call. People might be able to notice with the two is on screen, there is a wee bit of a difference on how we look. Not just that I'm a male and you're a female. No, I hadn't joined a political party before, because I didn't see the need for it, because all I see is politics dividing people. There's apartheid that goes on that's politically motivated. So if it's not by class, it's by colour, by religion, by whatever, right? And we've all called this out with certain other parties and says this isn't good. So for other parties new parties to form and then create their own, and then trying to encourage new people to join and get on board with the movement, only for whenever there's feedback given, for everybody then to try and jump on them and say, oh, no, that'll not work for us because that doesn't go with the party's agenda. At the end of the day, the people are suffering at the moment. And
how dare they divide people? Now, I wasn't happy with this whole, now I have to be honest, since when I was with SNP, somebody tried to catch me up with the whole LGBT comment when I became inequalities officer in the Kelvin Committee. But that was sorted, done and dusted, but never any racial slurs or abuse from that. I didn't have that. But like I said, if there had been, I would have taken it to the top. And I think SNP know that I would have taken it to the top, you know?
Right. But again...
But I didn't have that. I didn't have that. But they have the black and minority ethnic, the BAME groups. And I never liked that because I wanted everything to be inclusive, right? But I thought, okay, they have that. People have a niche. I personally didn't like it, right? But then you come into the ALBA party and you think it's going to be all inclusive. Everybody's going to be in it. Nobody's going to be pigeonholed, right? Okay, so you've got the equality seem fine. And suddenly, they've got African Scots, Scots Asians for ALBA, right? And all fair and dandy. I put my hand up and I said I didn't want the ethnicities. I didn't want ethnicities split up. I wanted everybody together in the main group.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I thought a political party would have been. Why
have we not got, well, if they're going to divide, if they want an ethnic minority group, then why not do just exactly what the SNP have done and just have one collective group?
But again, it goes against my.
But is apartheid? Why not have everybody just being ALBA party or SNP? You know,
it's a political party, and people join a political party. So it shouldn't make any difference at all.
Now ALBA have coined New Scots. Who in the hell? Why are they deciding? Are they going to put a timeline on who the New Scots are?
Oh, well, again, I don't know. I don't know what anybody's
going to do. Who the sovereign Scots are? Who decides who are the New Scots? Who the sovereign Scots are? Are they going to decide? Because we've already had numerous discussions. I've had people come up to me and say that I can't be sovereign. Right?
Why? I don't get why. Well, I thought every. See, my understanding is that Scottish people are sovereign, but my understanding is that every human being that walks the earth is sovereign.
And we've got interracial marriages, Peter, right? Interracial marriages. Where are these political parties? How dare they try and slot people into different groups? Future generations. Already we've got generations, children from interracial marriages. How dare they try and slot people into different groups?
Well, again, if we're trying to foster a
divide and conquer.
Well, if we're trying to foster a society or a movement,
you're a political group
of unity.
Remain for politics, and have an equalities group that actually deals with equalities for race, religion, ethnicity, everything across the board.
It is what it is. If you don't give the party message, then the party will just try and shut you down.
I've been told that maybe you have another agenda. Maybe that's why this happened to you. But my only agenda was independence and to make Scotland better.
The betterment of lives for Scottish people. That's the agenda that I want to follow. I want to follow an improvement in Scottish lives, less poverty, trident off Scottish land.
And that includes all diverse communities.
Because all of these things that we're trying to improve, poverty touches on everybody, war touches on everybody. It doesn't distinguish against a race, religion, creed, colour, whatever. It touches everybody. So to try and pigeonhole people into groups keeps the divisiveness when we're trying to unify people and go, wait a minute, we should be standing as one to say that we disagree with how the government are taking liberties with the lives of the electorate, how the big multinational companies get off scot-free when it comes to tax, everything else. All their profits are increasing, soaring, no increasing, soaring, along with the bills that they keep on passing on to the customers. Now, well, in a struggle against Westminster and
there's no struggle. There's no struggle with Westminster because they don't exist, because Scots are sovereign. It's supposed to be, they've said it's a voluntary union, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a voluntary union. So in a union, a voluntary union, a partnership, right? It's a contract. You're in a business. It's a voluntary partnership. You work to the terms of the partnership. If the terms of a partnership are broken, 1 strike, 2 strikes, 3 strikes, it's null and void. Mm-hmm. How many chances are you going to keep giving the partner that shafts you time and time again?
Aye, that's the abusive partner. And look, they're talking about 96 billion coming out of the Scottish economy, whether it be through renewables or fossil fuels, etc., that are being taken from Scotland's potential to keep the potential of the Westminster elite and England, Wales, and the 6 counties in the north to finance the RUK economy over the next few years. So a lot of people see this and they go, that's not exactly fair, or it's not a voluntary union. We should have a right to leave. All of these parties, I'm saying all of these parties, the Alba Party, ISP, and the groups that have came to light thereafter, namely SSRG, Salvo, in the pursuit of Scottish independence and self-determination, to try and make lives better for the people of Scotland, are certainly not to make them as bad as what they're becoming, because in 2014 we tried to vote our way out at the referendum.
The referendum, and they knew, the politicians at the time knew it was rigged. They knew it was a poll. Why did they walk away?
With no exit polls, again. It's often something that's why was there no exit polls? What's going on? I mean, we know that the former First Minister went through allegations of sexual assault and so on and so forth, of which he was found not guilty in 12 and not proven in 1, or not guilty in 13 and not proven in 1. I can't remember the exact numbers, but something like that. That's all by and done, and we're trying to get past the wrongdoings of how the legal system is getting used against the electorate and some prominent independent supporters also, only to be, when we're trying to do our best to stand up and coming across things like this as if, oh well, this is only for certain people. You're not allowed to do this because you're for the scheme. You talk like that. You're not allowed to do this because the colour of your skin. You're not allowed to do this because the God that you follow. You're not allowed to do this because, what's the next thing? Because of the shoes that you're wearing. Oh, you're not going to be allowed to do this because you like cheese and onion and we don't. We like salt and vinegar. Where do we draw the line? Where do we then start to see that it is inclusive and unifying? Because certainly my experience of late is pretty similar to what Farah says, and it's the common thing that I've heard and seen posted on Twitter is, we didn't leave the SNP left us, which is ringing true, because they stayed there. They stayed there until there was a new party, then jumped ship. So they were happy to stay there until there was a new party, then jumped ship to a party that they thought would have better represented them. And as the bystander that's hoping for independence, been held with no party affiliation until that time, hoping that some of these parties could get somewhere, because there was still the hope of something happening. Did we get whether enough members elected at not just the council elections, but the last Scottish Parliament elections? When
we've not had a bystander effect. We have been active.
Yeah, and this is the thing. We've been active for well, depends what you define as active. We're active independent supporters because we're actively doing something to put the independence message out. So you don't need to be on the street to be an activist. You're trying to pass the message so that other people take up on what the message that you're passing and so on and so forth. So there's been a lull in progress for Scotland to a free, independent nation. Nicola Sturgeon has decided that she was going to make a request to a court in another country to see whether Scotland had the right to make the decision for themselves to leave a voluntary union, or to if we could hold a referendum that would see us leave the voluntary treaty of union. And it's as if there's more non-independent supporters at the height of the independent supporting parties than what there are independent supporters. And why would that be? I don't get why people would try and infiltrate these new parties or these old parties, other than to try and prevent Scotland from achieving its potential. And when you've got then very controversial things that are happening as a result that don't need to be happening, you've got to ask, well, who are?
Do they really want independence?
Does Scotland really? Do the people of Scotland really want independence?
The people of Scotland do. The people of Scotland do. But the people who are, this is what I've experienced, is that there's been so much division, divide and conquer being created, and people are they're turning left, right, back, forward, and they're looking for hope.
Yeah, absolutely. They're
looking for hope, but the hope lies within. Mm-hmm. The happiness lies within. We've got the key, not the politicians. Because I thought this was going to be radical. Now, I don't want anybody to walk away from here thinking I've got a chip on my shoulder, because I don't. Mm-hmm. I've been carrying this burden for a long, long time.
But the most radical thing that the independence parties have done of late is two of them shared the same stage at the Time for Scotland events that were organised by, I believe it was Aberdeen, the Aberdeen Independence Movement, and
oh, that's right,
South Scotland Independence, the new independence movement that you've got to sign a code of conduct for, etc., to be a part of, or else you can't be a part of the independence movement.
Are you not being controversial? You know, maybe they did it for independence, bringing people together, just like going down to the Privy Council. You know, they have to do it to be seen, to bow down to the colonial masters.
Yeah, to be seen to bow. I've never been one for curtsying on bowing to Westminster, the monarchy, whatever it is. Unlike, because there's a new SNP Westminster leader. Subsequently, it was somebody that I'd heckled at Glasgow Green after the renewable sell-off, Stephen Flynn.
And let's do that together. You know, whilst Westminster was dealing with the chaos of a ridiculous Prime Minister over the course of this week, in Scotland there was an announcement that you've all probably seen about Scotland, the £700 million that's coming in as part of the renewables revolution that's about to happen off our coast. Let's make sure that the resources that Scotland has, at this time they benefit the people of Scotland, and that they don't end up plundered by the Tories at Westminster. And let's take that positive vision for Scotland, of the vision that we want, or the way we want Scotland to be, and let's take it to the people. Let's take it to their doorsteps, leaflet after leaflet, conversation.
Give us a date for a vote then!
Conversation, and let's make sure that collectively, together, we become independent. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Give us some action!
Off Stephen Flynn, who, again, I'd say to people, it had been mooted a wee while before that he was going to take over. Yeah, that's because the WEF have penetrated the cabinets of both the Scottish government and Westminster government and world governments. And they're introducing a central bank digital currency. And there's all of these things that are happening in Scotland. Instead of being free in 23, we're going to have charter cities. They don't call them concentration camps because nobody would want to go to them. But charter cities is maybe a fancy name for it. Where they run your life.
The climate lockdowns. We've had the COVID
the climate
lockdowns.
Yeah, so we're under
surveillance.
We're under
for a long
surveillance.
time.
They're trying to scare everybody into believing that, oh, we have this issue, when there was a mention in Westminster at the House of Commons today, I believe by a Tory MP, and Andrew Bridgen had asked about the efficacy of some of the shots that were first thought to prevent transmission, stop you from getting, and I think also cure the pandemic that we were the past few years the world has been held hostage to. Andrew Bridgen had said about that, and Rishi Sunak said that he believes that the things are safe and effective. However, we know from, certainly from some news reports, some social media reports, other countries' reports, other governments' reports, that there is extreme doubt over the safety of these things. And then there's going to be something else that will be coming soon, something next, the climate lockdowns, forced lockdown, digital prison, cashless society. It's as if there is something that is preventing sovereign people of the world, not just sovereign people in Scotland, but sovereign people of the world having the right to freedom and to live freely. There's been a case in Australia where a family have had their child taken off them by the state because they requested blood and a blood transfusion that hadn't been contaminated with mRNA or
Vaccine.
We know that these things are happening the world over, all over the plains of the earth. It's a very worrying time, especially when you see what's happening in China and the reports that we get about people being locked down in their houses and having exits welded closed, the main exit welded closed so that they can't escape the lockdown.
That's going to be like Grenfell. Can you imagine if it's a fire or something?
Well, Farah, somebody lost their life in a fire, and this is why the protests then started. I believe that the government in Westminster had said that, and also the government in Canada had said that people have the right to protest, even though Canada tried to quell their freedom convoy protest and arrest people's savings, etc. So we're not getting, the media are covering up everything. as you know, they never give you a true representation of Scotland at the best of times. But when it's the world, when it's the full of the earth, or certainly the western part, or what's classed as the West, that all seems to be out protesting. It doesn't seem to be getting covered on any of the mainstream news channels within those countries. Or we're covered within the mainstream in other countries that seem to be in competition with Western countries, and vice versa. The Western media will show you the protests that happen in the countries that they're against. It's as if it's all part of a big game to them to keep you uninformed. We're at a very.
Well, I can show you something, right? So they have this pyramid, right? Can you see it?
Yep.
The pyramid scheme. So this is those at the top, but there's very few. And this is us at the bottom. We can override the system. That's all I want to say.
Yeah, again, there are
the ones
more
at
of
the
us.
top are very few.
There are more of us than there are of
them.
And we all know who runs the world anyway. We all know who runs things on Earth. So we've got to speak up truth to power. We've got to speak up against discrimination of all forms. Otherwise, the rich keep getting richer, the elite keep holding everybody else down, and we're all bickering amongst ourselves at the behest of the things that they do, and infiltrators into all of these other areas to try and agitate and to cause us to keep at odds and not pursuing the true goal that we need to pursue, and that's well, if you're of a Scottish independence persuasion, it's for Scotland to become a free, independent country, nation among nations. And if you're of any other, like not for Scottish independence, it's about, I guess, like if it's from the same as myself.
Hold your breath, Peter. Hold your breath. Don't say anything else. Just stick to Scottish.
If it's about happiness, it's about happiness, and it's about
in the pursuit of happiness,
and the pursuit of like a peaceful and just life where there's at least fairness
for everybody,
equality for everybody, fairness for everybody, and that goes for
across the board for all classes.
Across the board.
And in fact, why do we have a class system?
Exactly. That goes to. There are things that I am against in terms of the ideology of things. However, for people to dress and act as they please, I don't see why nobody shouldn't dress and act as they please. What I do have a bit of an issue with is the safe spaces of females being
and children
and children being put at risk by people with ulterior motives, and not the genuine person who believes that they're trans, whatever the trans meaning is, because that's still not been defined. It used to be, I don't know if it was transsexual previous, that was how it, as a matter of fact, transsexual I think is still the terminology, but they're trying to take away sex and make it gender, so maybe that's why they'll not want transsexual used and they'll want trans, possibly. But everybody should have a fair crack at life, and it shouldn't be by the place that you were born, whether it be town, city, country, whatever. It should be that everybody gets a fair crack, but we know that that's not the case. And with folk telling you just be quiet because that will ruin this. That creates that sort of society where, oh, it's okay for some to say this, but it's not okay for others to say this. Or don't say this because this will ruin this. Well, no, I'll say this because it's the right thing to be saying and to call it out so that we don't have instances like this cropping up, because the more you say, oh, don't say anything, the more it gives people the fuel to go, oh, well, nothing happened to me the last time I said it, so I'll carry on saying or doing or being like this, because that's not very fair. Farah, is there anything else you would like to communicate with us before we finish up here?
Just truth. Speak up for truth, justice, equalities, independence. It's very important to tell the truth and equality. Speak up for justice and for people, for mankind.
Aye, because
we don't have humanity, we've got nothing.
Yeah, because there's enough evil out there, and we've got to try and fend off all evils in whichever form they represent, or they present, sorry. Right, so from Farah, Hamid, on what's been a very, very tough conversation, I would, no, sorry, I would just like to say thanks for having the conversation with and being prepared to share the conversation, because we've had this conversation offline, and I was trying along with others to support yourself as best as we could, because at the end of the day, if somebody tells us that Westminster says that we can't do something, like we all pull together and say, well, no. But when it's a case of has all been in the same party and saying, well, this has happened, it seems as if, oh no, well, there's only so many as we'll pull together for that. No, how? What? I don't understand that. I don't get it. And where we're needing an education on things, it's best that we learn very quickly. Otherwise, we won't have any chance to learn ever again. That's how I see it. So if we Tweet Street Scotland occupied, Satirical Saltire, Cinnamon Bridges, aka Peter, I'd like to say thanks very much, Farah, for sharing with us.
Thank you for having me.
The trauma that you've had. I will be offline, available for you to contact for any further support. And I hopefully people take heed to the message. Otherwise, we're done. We're done. Otherwise, I mean, it's a case of we should be pulling together and supporting the people that we all know that are going through the same sort of discriminations, regardless of who it's for. So, goodbye, everybody. Thanks very much for joining us today. And have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year if you celebrate it. Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to everybody.
Yep, and 3 and 23.
It's going to be the fourth industrial revolution, an all-consuming industrial revolution right across the board. The speed of change 1,000 times faster than during the first industrial revolution, and affecting all services, all products, all countries, all industries, and all people. It's going to lead to job destruction, so we've got to think about the jobs of the future and how we create them. It's going to lead to massive technological change in the way we deliver services. It's going to force governments to change their minds about how they operate. And all this has been set out by Klaus Schwab in the speech he made in Abu Dhabi to the summit of the Agenda Council.
And I have to say, when I mention now names like Mrs. Merkel, even Vladimir Putin and so on, they all have been young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. Mm-hmm. But what we are very proud of now is the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, president of Argentina and so on, that we penetrate the cabinets. So yesterday I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, and I know that half of this cabinet, or even more, half of this cabinet are actually young global leaders of the World Economic Forum.
And that's true in Argentina too. Wow.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's true in Argentina as well.
It's true in Argentina, and it's true in France now. I'm with the president, with a young global leader, but what is important for me...
I'm going to tell it to you straight. I'm going to tell you the truth. Our darkest days are ahead of us, not behind us. And now's the time when things are shifting. There's going to be a new world order out there.
Just clap for that, you stupid bastard.
This would be the time, because you really need world order, financial world order.
This alternative vision argues that ordinary men and women are too small-minded to govern their own affairs. That order and progress can only come when individuals surrender their rights to an all-powerful sovereign.
We are here to develop the great narrative, the story for the future. But in order to shape the future, you have first to imagine the future, you have to design the future, and then you have to execute